The instructions in the Roman Missal say you should give a homily, and it should be brief. It's only should. I'm going to go for 25 minutes. No. I've shared a number of times maybe a different sense of reading the Gospels in this year, this cycle. We're in year B, and the focus is the Gospel of Mark, the shortest of the four Gospels, and as I've said before, the first put into writing. And so, Mark, writing for the Jewish community as he was, has an attentiveness to things that want to be said. Some details he has that no one else has, and some things he doesn't include that the other gospel writers do. One of the things that stands as unique is this story at the very beginning. The woman who came with the alabaster jar of perfumed oil. She broke the alabaster jar and poured it on his head. Some were indignant about it, it says. First, the expensive perfume spikenard. Second, it was an alabaster jar. I mean, alabaster, we make statues out of it. It's valuable. It's very important. And she didn't just kind of pull a cork or break off a little thing. She broke the jar and poured the oil over his head. And he didn't cast her off. He didn't say, what are you doing? He allowed it. I wonder if Mark understood, as the first to put pen or to paper, as it were, that the community needed an example of how to enter into this most profound, most devastating, most arduous, and most hopeful of weeks of the final story. The writer of Mark didn't understand the liturgical cycle yet, but he knew that the story that was coming forth following these words, the upper room, had to begin with this call to action. Unlike Matthew and Luke, who we believe have the same sources as Mark, unlike John, who has an entirely different direction to go and a lot of different emphases, Mark chose to include at the beginning of this story, the Passion of the Christ, one anonymous woman whom he said would be remembered throughout all of history, and she is. But one anonymous woman who did an overwhelming and outrageous act. I mean, it was outrageous in its cost. It was outrageous in its demonstrative quality. It was outrageous in expectation. Because when Mark put this forth to the community, they were still small and tiny. They were still afraid. They were still hiding in their homes or in the catacombs in order to pray and to worship. They were still worried that this new way, this way of Christ, would just wither and pass. Oh, they believed, but it didn't grow maybe as quickly as they had hoped. And Mark gave them an example. In this final chapter of his earthly life, someone needs to step up and be willing to make the outrageous endeavor of faith. In this holy week, in this holiest of weeks, someone, in a world where many are still out of bona fide fear in their homes, where many are downtrodden because of the conflict and consternation of the civil world, the civic life, someone must be bold and even outrageous in proclaiming that this is the Lord. This is the Lord of my life. This is the Lord whom in my prayer and in my action, in my sacrifice, I break the alabaster jar and cover him with everything I can, so that I am joined not only to his anointed wonder, but to his painful death, but most importantly, to his glorious resurrection. Pick one moment this week and be bold and be outrageous and be faith-filled, so that this week means for you what this reading meant for the writer of Mark in that first Christian community.